What's up, family?
What's good?
Hey.
You are now tuned in to the Millennial Mindset.
Yes, sir.
I am your host, DJ iRock.
And I'm Esquire Matt.
I am the
Before
Optimist.
you introduce yourself, my brother, let me just go ahead and give your resume or a piece of your resume. I'm sure it's more to you. This guy here that we have on the pod today is a photographer. He has his own YouTube channel, which is hella dope. He's a sneakerhead, and I'm sure it's many other things that we're going to dive into. So without further ado, our guest today is Bam, a.k.a. Eyeconic Boy Kids. Let's give him a round of applause for our family. Hey! Yes,
Man.
man.
Alright, man. Young soul brother, Southside St. Pete.
Yes, sir.
Photographer, YouTuber,
Okay.
all around creative. That's
Okay.
what I would say.
Cool.
It's no limits to what I want to do and where I want to go.
Thank you for joining us today, sir.
Nah, thank
Much
you for the
appreciated.
opportunity, man.
Not a problem. So we're going to jump right in. And first thing I have here on the docket is about your consciousness. You know, I noticed just based off of things you posted on Facebook that you have a level of consciousness about yourself. And so I want to know what led you to that consciousness. Was it a book, a piece of advice from an elder, or your upbringing? What was that?
I could be completely honest, bro. Two things. Late teens, 18, 19. Looked into Fred Hampton. That's where the journey kind of started, where that kind of like seed was planted.
Yeah.
Saw that, kind of started like looking into like Black Panther Party. And then I actually got a job in the city, and I started working with my coworker. He's no longer a coworker, but my boy Drew, big brother Drew. He a roster man. He started planting little seeds. Made me book about Marcus Garvey, bro. Stuff about the way I should
What's
be.
that book?
The Philosophies and Opinions on Marcus Garvey. Started with that. So after that, man, that's kind of where the journey, the consciousness just went from there.
Flowed, yeah.
You know what I mean,
Flowed.
I've always been a brother to just kind of like be as positive as possible, and always try to lead people that's around me if I was encouraged enough to do so. But once I started getting those type of information, I kind of learned to love myself more and to also know about myself and my history.
Okay. Well, I got something there that you posted a couple of days ago, or maybe today actually. And I'm just going to go ahead and read it for the listeners out there. You can expand on it. But he said,
Black consciousness and financial literacy can't coexist without each other. Meaning, we can have all the woke brothers and sisters in the world still yelling black power and talking 40-year-old doctrines. But if we don't know how to understand financial literacy, we will continue to stay in this hamster wheel.
can you explain that a little bit to the listeners?
So, again, I started this journey at 18, 19. Got even more advanced at 21. And I've noticed, like, out of our whole journey of being empowered by Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Louis Farrakhan, just all Martin Luther King, all this type of stuff, all these individuals, right? And as I started to understand, that, man, as I'm getting older, almost in my 30s, I'm talking to older, how would you say, not older individuals, but more the ancestors, like the older ancestors around us in their 60s, 50s.
Yeah.
And I realized that they're giving me those doctrines of, stay conscious, learn yourself, love yourself, all this stuff, which is good. We need that.
Absolutely.
But nobody's never sat down with me and said, hey, this is how you get a bank account. This is how you get a trust fund. This is how you start a CD. This is how you invest in stock. This is how you learn about bonds. This is how you learn about, all these different things to invest in. To what's the word I'm looking for? For longevity. Like it's no generational wealth.
Yeah.
Nobody taught us about generational wealth. All they taught us was going to work.
Yeah.
Working 9 to 5.
That's all they knew.
That's
all
all
they
Yeah, I was
knew.
about to say, you can only teach what you know.
Yeah.
You can't expect.
True. My thing why I made the post is because I realized that it's an ongoing fight of just passing on the same information from 40 years ago, 1960s, 1950s, 1970s. It's 2020 now. We're so, I ain't gonna say we're so past the legacy of still fighting for black power.
Yep.
We're not past that, we still have to do that, but at some point we have to understand you cannot fight this battle without financial literacy. There's no money.
That's right.
We can keep talking
That's
about,
100.
we can keep talking about, love yourself, don't let the government do this to you. you can come up with all these
Damn,
conspiracy,
shit fucked up. Yeah.
conspiracy theories.
The white man keep his foot on my neck. He won't get his foot on my neck.
No, bro. Like, don't get me wrong.
Find
It's
a
a
way.
time for that. It's a time for that. Like, don't get me wrong. Don't take that out of your history. That has happened.
But what do we do after that?
But what do you do after that?
Literally.
What do you do once you realize that the foot is on your neck and that you realize that you can take the foot off your neck?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to stay there. You know what I mean? And I think that's what we do a lot of times. We have this mindset that like, damn, Uncle Sam done kept his boot on my neck forever. But you have to wake up and say, well, I can get up out of that.
Which is true to a certain extent, but we gotta do the groundwork and kind of like figure out how we can, you know what I mean, what's the next step? How can we improve ourselves? How can we improve our communities?
And you know, that's literally what, just to piggyback on what you were saying,
Yeah.
that's what Walker Clark was recently talking about in one of his interviews. Like, in his opinion, there's never gonna like not be racist people out here.
Yeah.
There's always gonna be a system that's was created to hold you back somehow. You know what I mean? So once you kind of like accept that harsh reality, it's like, okay, now what are you gonna do about it? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you want to leave your
How do
legacy?
you
Because it's
find-
still wide open for you to do something.
Find a way around that. Like, how can I still
Yeah.
get around this?
Be aware,
You know?
but take action. Like
Yeah.
Haley or the Optimist always talks about.
But the biggest thing, you know, I ain't gonna say his name because that's just it's whole nother light. But
Yeah.
a certain specific person speaks on victimizing. You know what I mean? And not just on the. Again, I don't want to take away from what we've been through because we can't take that away, right?
Yeah.
But it's at some point where it's like, let's just say a person that's a drug abuser, right? A person that's a drug abuser can say, well, I've been through this, I've been through that.
Right.
And I understand that you have to take all of that accountable. But it's at a point in your life where it's say, okay, I've been through this. I have to be either strong enough to understand what I've been through, what I'm doing to cope with those issues, and how I can push forward.
Yeah.
And a lot of times with a lot of our generation, a lot of the older generation before us, and before that, they're gonna say, oh, well, we was in slavery, we were in Jim Crow, we went through all of our leaders being killed, which is nothing I don't want to take away from us. But what do you do eventually once you understand that harsh reality?
Yeah.
You can't just fold up and then sit in the house and be, well, damn, they took everything
You
away
can't
from
just
me.
accept that as
Yeah,
your reality.
your reality.
You know what I mean?
Learn from it.
So-
So history doesn't repeat itself, and
Right.
you won't be in that same wheel, running around saying, fight the power, let's do for our community. How can you do for your community with no funds?
How can you do for your community with no funds? How can you do for your community with no funds?
That's right.
Yeah.
How can you tell a kid that's out stealing cars every day and you talk bad about them when you don't know if these kids can't even eat at night?
That's
Right.
real.
And some of them literally literally some
Can't
of these
eat at
kids
night.
can't
That's
eat,
real.
bro. They go
Yeah.
to sleep
That's
hungry.
real.
Yeah.
And what happens? Hey, bro, I've been breaking the cars, bro. I've been able to get money and I go buy food.
Out of necessity.
Yeah.
I don't.
Out of
Hey, I got this
necessity.
car, bro. You want to go buy food? I hit
Yeah,
this lick
and you
this.
know what? That's something me and my
You
cousin
feel
was
me?
talking about. It's like, you know, what about that the one kid that just grows up in a family where all you ever seen was your mom struggle,
Yeah.
and all you ever wanted to do was help. You know what I'm saying? That's literally how it sometimes start off. Like, I just
Yes.
want to bring in some extra money for my mom because we
Yeah.
don't got no cable, the lights about to be cut
My
off,
mama
she
look
working all the
tired,
time.
yes.
Yeah.
I've been there though, like that, and that's a
We
lot
done
of
all.
things.
Yeah.
I've been there, bro. Like, and I think that's a lot of times people have to know your. At some point in your life, as you get older, you have to know your destiny because
Facts.
I've been in that place where it's like where you can sell drugs with your boys,
Yeah.
or you can find another way. And I don't take nothing away from my boys because I know, and I have a lot of understanding for them, and I respect them because
Yeah.
it's like we on two different paths, but we have the same mission at mind. If that make any
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
So this, to tie all of this in, like something that I always like bring up to people is how you saying like you gotta know your destiny, you gotta know like what has been paved the way for me.
Yeah.
And it's the biggest argument between like people who go to black people who go to PWIs, predominantly white
Yeah.
institutions. And it's like, do y'all not realize that my ancestors fought for me to sit in this seat with all these white people and get the same education as all these white people sitting in this room for me?
Yeah.
And no matter what, I can still go and run a black-owned business. I can still go
Yeah.
and be the CEO of these big white corporations, you know, because I sat in this room. It don't matter, like, because we have institutions like HBCUs that are for black people,
Yeah.
that's only where black people should go.
Right.
Because our ancestors literally made it so that we can sit in these seats. And then I can do all of this, so I can take my CEO money from this big firm and I can put it in my community, and I can say, this is how you all can flourish. This is how you all can start your black owned businesses. This is how you can do these things. And I've learned, I've been out here, I have seen how you can get around this, how they make it happen.
Facts, right? But let me just tie into that, right? But that's why I said what I said in that post, because you can go to a PWI, you can go to a HBCU, but if your parents never educated you about financial literacy, on top of loving yourself and being the best black individual you can for your community, for yourself, for your kids, doesn't matter.
I feel like when you find your purpose in life, your whole mindset changes. Like
really
you see how Optimist just explained step by step what her plans were, you know what I mean? Once you find your purpose in life, nothing can kind of like get you sidetracked. You got tunnel vision.
And you should never tear down a black person for being on their black journey.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not that you're doing this and it's like, but you don't, like the spook who sat by the door. Everybody chastised him and said like, why are you doing this?
I haven't read it yet.
Oh no, it's it's just from the general story. You know, he was very chastised for what he was perceived to be doing.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, but really what he was doing was for the betterment of black people.
Okay.
And it's like, you can look at somebody and say, you going to a PWI, you're just doing what white people tell you to do, and it's like, no, I'm making sure that in this classroom they understand black people. When I'm taking psychology and they want to reference how black people live, I can tell you that this textbook is wrong. Yeah. And I can tell you in a discussion in my class that this is not how black people live. This is a stereotype. I get to stand up and say, you know what I'm saying? You get to stand up and say, this is not the reality.
Right.
And now, even though it's only, 30 other people in this classroom with me, if they're all white, they understand that experience. Yeah. Or they say, like, I have a black girl that's in my classroom. Do you know how many, like, white kids like just don't grow up around black people, so they don't understand black people? And it's like that this is their experience. Even if you 18, 19 years old, you're getting your experience with a person of color. You're gonna understand they sit in the same room as you, they make better grades than you, like they can do everything that you do. They just like you. Not everybody
certain
is the same.
things are like common sense. At certain times, I feel like, and we're not a racist podcast, we're just speaking facts. I feel like some white students or white people in general, they try to turn like a blind eye to certain things. Like you can clearly see what's going on out here.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
But
so
they
choosing
still
not to be aware of it. You know what I mean? Or choosing not to give a damn.
Some of them do.
Exactly.
But if you still saying what you have to say, like it's still gonna sit there. Words are powerful.
Just how we master mentality.
Yes, and when you tell them, like when you bring them down to realize, like, listen, we're sitting in the same classroom right now. Our rate of tuition is the same.
Right.
Your mama paying for yours, I'm not. You know what I'm saying? I take this seriously because I sit in here. You may not, so you can get out. We all got that option.
And I think it's also just very powerful to have, like, just to let black people know you don't have to go to an HBCU. Like, literally in life, don't limit yourself and feel like you're only going to be accepted here.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you can literally do
anything.
Would you encourage that?
I'm sorry. I would encourage for you to go wherever you feel like it's going to be best for what you think your career is going to be. Which we have to admit, a lot of people go to school very young, they don't know what they want to do. But at that time, I think you should first put yourself in a position to be open to different schools, different options. You know what I'm saying?
Be open
and
to
then
everything.
you be choosy, because that's really how life
what's
can
crazy
be.
though? We all, like I said, it kind of keep tying back to the post. At the end of the day, like, no matter, again, it's all about the literacy, bro, because in reality, do we even need school?
In reality, if you ask my personal opinion, not at all. It depends on what you want to do in life. Because
like
obviously,
if you're not going to
you want to be a doctor,
teacher, doctor,
pharmacist,
lawyer,
CPA.
You know what I mean? It's specific, but you literally have some stuff to where it's like, I went to school for photography.
Yep.
And I'll be honest, I appreciate what I learned going there because it was bigger than photography.
That's school, period.
And that's the thing I would say about school. It's bigger than photography, but what I learned, I could have learned on YouTube.
I will honestly say it's always bigger than what you learn too, because college just teaches you how to handle life. I feel like how to put yourself on a routine.
I got 4 classes. All this shit do right now.
Relationships.
Developing relationships.
It's why the American structure though.
I'm talking about you can take that structure and add it to your personal business and it'll help you.
No,
you know
think
what I'm
about
saying?
think about the networking aspect of that. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sitting in a class with 30 people. I have all of your emails. If I'm doing something, if I say I'm in a podcast and I email it to all of my classmates and say, hey, this is something I did, check it out.
Right.
At least 10% of them are going to check it out.
True. But
Like, you are gaining this network.
And
People are going to say,
it's not what you know, it's who you know. Even just people in the institution you network with. I got professors that got me jobs. I'm not even gonna
yes.
yeah, I understand
Anybody.
that. But that's what I'm saying. Like, but again, it is all going to tie back to that because as an individual growing up, if your parents haven't already aligned certain things for you to know, like again, the word networking. How many kids, all kids, understand the fact that you're going to school to network?
Yeah.
So that word network is something that's very powerful in the whole concept of financial literacy because you can't be have financial literacy without knowing that you need to network and understand different all
classes, maybe 20 students per class. It's like somebody's gonna be successful in each of those classes.
A few people.
Exactly. And then a few people in each of those classes gonna have similar interests and similar career paths.
Do you know how many
how many times have we heard stories where like-minded people meet in college and start a business? Might not even finish their degree.
Bill Gates.
But
Bill Gates.
There we go.
Or just develop a friendship and just invest in each other.
Yes, and it's just like I just like I like you as a person. You hire people, you do not hire a skill.
Every time.
Because if I like you, I know that I can teach you how to do what I do.
You
if you are a person to be around, like that's all that the hiring process is. Like when you really learn how to navigate the hiring process, I just went through a hiring process where I was denied the job. And when she told me that, I said, thank you. I would love to take some time for some feedback. Can you let me know where I fell short in your company, things I could do better to improve? Like, you just always got to let them know, like, I'm still good at this. No matter what you try to say or do, I can still do what you're asking of me. And you got to take that everywhere. And that's something that college teach you, like, all right, how can I navigate? Because it got to happen. When classes is due, especially when you're taking classes that are four-year major, like, not only do I have to take this class, but I have to get a good grade in it.
Now, to piggy just back on your post, I will honestly say you don't necessarily need to go to college. I think the most important skill that we can teach any kid is financial literacy. Because if I would have known what I know now back then, I would have been a little bit more strategic with my college experience. I don't regret it at all. You know what I'm saying?
That's
I'm
why
happy
I'm
I
going
went.
back.
But I would have done things just a little differently. You know what I mean? But back then, I kind of had my mind open to, damn, I'm going to school for this, but I low-key love music. So when I would get back, you know, grants and, hate to say it, loans as well, I just started investing in my own business, getting laptops, speakers, you know, DJ equipment. Not even knowing, like, oh, you're investing in an asset. I just looked at it like, well, shit, I want to DJ someday. I'm going to get this shit now and I pay it back later. You know what I mean?
And to segue from what you just said, like, this is the millennial mindset, so we try to give advice to, you know what I mean, people of our generation. What's a piece of advice that you would give your younger self?
My younger self? Learn what liability and an asset is first before you do anything, because as a young investor of my own company, I found myself buying a lot of liabilities instead of assets. Secondly, I would...
Can you explain it?
Okay, all right, so...
As far as like your business, what do you mean when you say you're buying more liabilities for your business than you are assets?
Okay, so as a photographer, you are in a rat race of quote unquote high quality gear, cameras, lenses, lights. An asset for the company would be a good camera, a good lens. Oh no, let me take it back. First asset that you would need to do as a photographer is learn how to be a photographer. Understand lighting, understanding posing, understanding what you want to do as a photographer in general, actually knowing how to be a photographer, how to work with camera. Secondly, then you get into buying cameras, lenses, such and such, equipment. But those are three assets you need to know for a fact off rip, right? Equipment and actually knowing photography, front and back. Liabilities would be, I have a camera, but I seen another photographer buy a $2,000 lens, and I don't know how to use the lens or the camera. So I found myself when I first started, bro got an 18 to 55 millimeter lens.
And he made it look like this.
He made it look like damn, like, but I didn't know he done spent 2,500. But I don't went and invested 250 to 500 in a lens.
Yeah.
They can't do anything better than what I had.
And that's probably if you establish that foundation. Even when you do get that camera, you probably gonna have no more shit than to do that. You know what I mean? They got it, you know what I mean?
But the biggest key with that is learning. Learning that what you have in front of you is useful already.
Yeah.
Don't be quick to run out and just buy.
Yeah, I was just about to give you on
Great
that.
point.
I know
Figuring out your
You
technology.
you have to know what you
No
have.
shortcuts to success.
No shortcuts.
I had a professor that had the dopest quote, man. She said, "Seek simplicity and distrust it. If it's simple, it's some other shit coming with it. So do the work."
Yeah.
And I had another question, Ben, but he kind of already answered it.
What
We
was
went off on a tangent. It was about you being born in St. Pete and how that kind of like maybe shaped you into the person that you are today. But you kind of answered that. You know.
I got a question.
So okay, then we'll get your question, and Rock can go ahead and get to our schematic, whatever this is here.
So my question is, in 10 years, who will you be?
10 years. Well, I like to speak everything into life. So I'm gonna speak being wealthy enough to inspire other folks to chase their dreams without just focusing on working at a 9 to 5. I want to be a provider for my family for generations because I want to build generational wealth. And what else in 10 years? Shit. Just seeing the world, man. Like that'll be the biggest thing. Like once I get wealthy and being able to provide and be able to inspire other folks, just traveling, bro. That's how you also inspire,
For
showing
sure.
other folks that you're able to see the world, because like it's crazy how just looking at our phone or just being from St. Pete is just not even a glimpse of what the world is.
That's real.
Yeah,
That's real.
small.
It's so small. Like the phone is just like a window. I heard that the other day. It's like literally a window. When you see somebody dressing
I like that.
in Europe, and you like, damn, well, like they like imagine
Go.
being actually going
can
to
go.
Europe. You
can
can
go.
be there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing. Actually going places. So.
I cameraman wanna smoke his tree.
My birthday.
Fuck it up. Yeah, so we are pouring up for our dog Ryan.
Happy birthday,
You
bro.
know what I'm saying?
Brethren.
He came in on the B-Day.
Oh yeah, got to.
He's been doing it, bro.